It starts with a sound, not your typical catchy hook or polished intro crafted for instant radio appeal. Nahit's raw, sharp, and unapologetically loud. The kind of sound that grabs your attention instantly and says, listen up or step aside. Either way, we're not slowing down. It's more than music, it's a statement, a manifesto, a sonic rebellion in full swing. Welcome to the world of Stray Kids. The group that turned noise into their signature, chaos into an art form, and authenticity into an unstoppable force. Since breaking onto the scene in 2017, they've steadily but relentlessly made their presence felt everywhere not overnight, and definitely not easily, but through sheer creativity, hard work, and a refreshingly rebellious attitude. Now you'll hear them dominating global charts, fueling viral TikTok trends, and lighting up the feeds of their dedicated fanbase, Stay, at 3 a.m. virtual meetups. They're on ads for bubble tea, snacks, and sneakers, all the way up to the biggest luxurious brands. They're impossible to ignore and, honestly, who'd even want to? But how did these rebellious underdogs, the outsiders nobody saw coming, rise to become the unstoppable frontrunners of a musical revolution? To really understand their explosive ascent, you need to rewind. Back to when nothing was certain, when every track was a risk and every performance a leap of faith. Back to Hellevator, to the brutal survival show, back to that precise moment when K-pop wasn't quite ready for them, but they decided to kick down the door anyway. Because Stray Kids were never your average boy band. They weren't manufactured through cookie-cutter auditions, they were forged through ambition. Not randomly assembled, but united by a shared vision. Not polished perfection, but fearless originality. Never flawless, but always fiercely genuine. It's this raw authenticity they learned to master, amplify, and turn into an unstoppable creative engine churning out hits, exploring new sonic landscapes, and building one of the most passionate fan communities around. Yet even the best running machines risk overheating when pushed to the limit. And after endlessly producing, innovating, and saturating the musical landscape, what's left to say when it feels like we've heard it all? Have Stray Kids truly redefined the boundaries, or have they become another cog in a relentless industry demanding more and more? In this episode, we'll unpack their journey piece by piece, comeback by comeback, to find out exactly what their music says, what it conceals, and what it reveals about the global pop culture we're all plugged into. Buckle up. Stepping into the sonic universe of Stray Kids means leaving your comfort zone behind. But trust me, it's a ride you don't want to miss.
Cappuccino, egg, sharp minds, brewed hot, sure bra. No sugar, no filter. Sip, think, repeat, repeat, repeat.
Their first sound wasn't a promise. It was a warning, a sonic fracture, an anomaly dropped right into the middle of a K-pop landscape dominated by flower boy aesthetics, smooth choruses, and polished branding. Noise was their starting point, not refined noise, but raw, restless, almost rude. A sound that gives you a side eye and isn't trying to charm. A sound that says, we're not here to please, we're here to survive. This is the true beginning of Stray Kids. It's 2017. JYP Entertainment, the king of meticulously crafted boy bands, makes an unexpected move. Instead of classic auditions or prepackaged projects like Twice or GOT7, they launch a survival show but flipped on its head. It's not the agency selecting the members one by one. It's Bang Chan, a veteran trainee with a vision too strong to stay in the shadows, proposing an already formed, structured, and cohesive lineup. He crafted Stray Kids with an artisan's logic, not a recruiter's. The show? Merely an official stamp on a team already functioning. This decision wasn't neutral, it established from the start a tension between the idol industry's norms and an internal drive to resist. Their first track, Hellevator, sounds like the title of a cheap horror flick. And that's exactly why it's fascinating. The audio isn't polished, the mixing begs for help. Their voices are young, hesitant, yet something about its structure pierces through. A nervous lucidity, an urgent need to express. What exactly? Doesn't matter. The message isn't crucial here. It's the delivery, the energy, the raw vocal rupture. This is instinctual music, rough-edged, created in that feverish moment before considering an audience. Hellevator isn't a single. It's a manifesto. Next come Grr, Young Wings, Ya Ya, tracks oscillating between trap and existential screams, soften, messy, occasionally disorienting, but never bland. This isn't music meant to charm, it's testing ground. Members aren't yet aligned. Some search for their voices, others experiment with their anger. One raps as if his life depends on it, another sings slightly offbeat, while a third drops backing vocals that scratch too sharply. All of this creates a distinctive flavor, texture, and sonic identity that, though not yet fully owned, is undeniably present. For Stray Kids, chaos isn't accidental. It's an aesthetic in development. 2018 marks a turning point with the District 9 era. Here, SKZ's image solidifies. Street, military outfits, explosive choreography, almost post-apocalyptic visuals. The music video depicts a futuristic asylum. Broken chains, walls shaking under pressure. The camera vibrates alongside them. The track kicks off with sirens and electronic screams. When the beat drops, it's pure voltage. It's a declaration of resistance. The lyrics speak of escaping a district, but symbolically, they aren't fleeing a city, they're dismantling a system. It's sonic, visual, ideological warfare against mainstream K-pop aesthetics. The message is clear. They don't want well-trodden paths. They want to tunnel beneath concrete. And it continues with Mirror, My Pace, and Voices. Each comeback is a minor revolution, with its clumsiness, moments of brilliance, bursts of pure rage. It's clear they're seeking identity artistically as well as personally. They're together, but not yet unified. What binds Stray Kids at this stage isn't complementarity, it's a shared rebellion. They're young, imperfect, yet undeniably authentic. Every track represents an attempt to exist within a system barely willing to tolerate them. Hidden beneath this rebellion is an invisible structure, 3 RACHA, the internal production unit comprising Bangchan, Changbin, and Han. They're laying the foundations of the SKZ sound, a blend of trap, electro, industrial rock, noise, and glitch. Their work at this point hasn't yet been sanitized by K-pop's production standards. It's raw, sometimes gritty, precisely why it's so powerful. That these 3 write, compose, and arrange most of the music lends an exceptional depth. Every track, even imperfect, has soul. Visually, the art direction still wavers, sometimes urban, sometimes cyberpunk, sometimes outright experimental. Their videos are loud, saturated, and shaky just like them. The public doesn't yet know what to make of it. The fandom is still building. Stay isn't yet an army. Following Stray Kids at this point is an act of faith. You must love instability, excess, irregularity. Nothing is yet marketed in the typical JYP way. They aren't selling concepts yet, they're spitting ideas. Yet, despite the rough edges, youthful mistakes, overly long choruses, or chaotic instrumental breakdowns, something irreversible is emerging. It's not just a fanbase forming, it's a power plant in the making. Noise becomes language. Imperfection becomes style. Anger becomes method. Stray Kids isn't an assembly line yet, but it's already an engine. An engine sputtering, coughing, shaking the ground with every ignition, but moving forward. That's their strength at this precise moment. Moving forward, despite the noise. Or rather, because of it, 2017, 2018 isn't just the birth of a group. It's proof you can start with chaos and craft it into a backbone. Proof you can miss your target but still hit the mark. Proof that a badly mixed scream can resonate louder than a flawless chorus. It's the moment Stray Kids explodes onto the scene not as a product, but as a shockwave. It's often in silence that fractures become most audible. In 2019, Stray Kids experienced a deafening silence sonata in their tracks, which remained saturated, restless as ever, but behind the scenes. In vanished photos, edited videos, and voices erased. Woojin, a vocal pillar of the group since its inception, abruptly disappeared. Overnight, without explanation, without warning. The announcement came on the 28th of October. Personal reasons. 3 words. A full stop. No further explanation. JYP instantly shifted into damage control mode. The erasure was swift, clinical. Almost nothing remained in music videos, performances, official archive essays, though the past could simply be erased with digital scissors. But a group isn't just a file to edit, it's a collective memory. And among fans, memory is stubbornly persistent. Woojin's departure marked a profound rupture. It left not only a vocal void, Woojin had clearly been identified as the main voice, anchoring powerful ballads and refrains, but forced the group to redefine itself artistically, structurally, narratively. The Stray Kids of 2017, 2018 no longer existed. The 2019 version had to reinvent itself, swiftly, without revealing its vulnerability. And that's precisely what they did. In an almost violent rush, they released Hellevator in December, an album burdened with the task of reconstruction. It wasn't just an album, it was a rescue operation. Tracks initially recorded with Woojin had to be remade, lines rewritten, voices redistributed, arrangements restructured, all under immense pressure. The outcome was paradoxical, possibly their most melodic, clear, and accessible project yet, despite being born from chaos. Hellevator spoke about letting go, about shedding burdens. The message seemed almost too perfectly aligned. Some saw catharsis, others, camouflage. Around this time, the group began to evolve. The noisy sound became polished. Distortions remained, but better integrated. Rap was still intense, yet less aggressive. Vocals took center stage. Seungmin and N, previously overshadowed, started to emerge. Seungmin became the new vocal anchor, stable and reliable. N, long seen as the clumsy maknae, discovered a more expressive range. Vocal lines expanded, harmonies grew more complex. The group learned rapidly how to function as 8. More importantly, how to function despite the loss. Another standout project from this period was Mixtape, Gone Days, an outlier in their discography. With a retro look, lo-fi pop sound, and sarcastic vibe, it felt like a playful break, but it clearly reflected their reality. The song criticized nostalgia, romanticized pasts, rigid adult expectations. Beneath its sugary facade was a defiant message. We're doing things our way, even if it bothers you. And that's exactly what they did. They refused to break down. Instead, they crafted a sonic response. The skid was controlled, the fall reframed as a creative leap. But behind this outward momentum, something fundamental shifted. This was when Stray Kids stopped being merely a chaotic collective and became a production unit. Chaos became methodical. Emotion became fuel. This wasn't the pure experimentation of their early days anymore. It was resilience in constant production, a survival reflex embedded in each comeback. They produced faster than collective memory could catch up. They released new projects, live streams, vlogs, SKZ Talker episodes, YouTube content, anything to maintain an illusion of continuity. No gaps allowed. Gaps were where rumors thrived. Gaps were where pain seeped in. In this frantic race, external narratives shifted too. The group transitioned from being branded K-pop's unruly kids to the group that does everything themselves. Their autonomy took center stage. The work of 3 RACHA gained greater visibility composition. Lyrics, arrangements, all heavily emphasized. The goal was clear: establish a narrative of control. Demonstrate that SKZ wasn't an empty shell filled by others, but an entity capable of independently creating, thinking, acting. This narrative became armor, an elegant response to an unnamed wound. 2019 was the tipping point. Noise ceased to be an anarchic explosion, transforming instead into a defined sonic structure, a signature. The Stray Kids sound was no longer an experimental patchwork. It became replicable, marketable, brandable. From here on, we could speak not merely of a group, but a system, a mechanism transforming chaos into content. A trauma response turned into a business model. The fandom evolved alongside them. Stay began to organize, to protect, to defend, to document. Woojin's departure left scars. Some fans jumped ship. Others held tighter. Fan cams multiplied. Edits flourished. Archiving became obsessive. A new era began, the fandom as co-producers. Previously mere consumers of content, fans now started generating, distributing, and transforming it. The machine was quietly gearing up. Not yet the fully exposed factory SKZ would become in later years, but the foundations were already laid. 2019 was the year Stray Kids learned to absorb shocks, to cope with absence, to digest loss, to recycle emptiness into aesthetic. It was a painful yet vital transition. Losing a member granted them structure. Reorganizing voices led to a new rhythm. Facing silence allowed them to craft a new sound. Clearer, denser, more strategic, and crucially, harder to destabilize. Pain was never openly mentioned, it was internalized. It became a pulse, a baseline, a meticulously crafted choreography. In 2019, Stray Kids ceased to be survivors, becoming instead a resilient force. They didn't speak about what they'd lost. Instead, they showed what they'd built from loss. And perhaps that's exactly what controlled skid truly means.
Tunnel whispers got you sent on me, on me, on me. Mark the times you crossed without a key. No key, no key. Every signal flickers you to me, to me, to me. I don't chase, I just believe. Static hums when you're near. Do you feel it in your mirror? There's no name, just the sound of a presence underground. Yeah, this line never sleeps. Watch you pass, never speak. But I'm there in the glass, on repeat, repeat. And it's safe when I don't breathe. When you ride and I just speak. Rough track, no retreat. Yeah, this line never sleeps. I sit still, but I'm aligned, so close. Time my pulse to every wheel you wind. Your ghost. You don't see, but I design all the echoes that you find. Warning bells, not for danger, just a beat I made for strangers. You won't name me, but you'll know when the silence starts to glow. Yeah, this line never sleeps. I rewind every heat that you leave in the dark, bittersweet. And it's safe when I'm unseen. When I vanish in your stream. Fast ride, cold steam. Yeah, this line never sleeps. Your ticket said no turning, but I was never on board. Still I painted the ceiling of every car you ignored. Yeah, this line never sleeps. I'm the space you don't keep. Every blink I slip deep. Not a ghost, not a dream. Just the hum beneath your theme. In the night while you sleep. Yeah. This line never sleeps.
There's always a moment in a group's trajectory when instinct gives way to strategy, when creative urgency transforms into scheduling, when explosion becomes production. For Stray Kids, this moment came between 2020 and 2021, two pivotal years when the raw energy of their beginnings was digested, reformulated, digested again, and finally transformed into an engine. An engine spinning tirelessly, churning out music, concepts, performances, and content. This is when the power plant ignited. And once this machine started, it wouldn't stop. It all started with God's Menu in June 2020, a track that asked for no permission. A razor-sharp intro. A relentless do-do-do-do firing like a machine gun. A bass line scraping against your eardrums. This was the moment Stray Kids stopped searching for their style and decided to impose it. The video, saturated with glitch effects, aggressive angles, and clinical framing, displayed unprecedented visual mastery. No more hesitations, God's Menu was a finished product. A calculated offensive. Yet, the aggression hadn't vanished. It simply changed costumes. Cleaner, smoother, but just as fierce. It marked the official birth of their noisy sound, an explosive sonic alloy, textures colliding, choruses shattered by instrumental bridges, saturation turned trademark. Experimentation gave way to a production line. A few months later, with In Life, the group refined this process even further. The album consolidated elements that would now serve as their industrial foundation. Ultra-melodic choruses alternating with staccato verses, unexpected rhythmic shifts, layers of sound stacked like concrete blocks, always on the brink of collapse. At the core of this thunderous construction lay precise structure, choreographed to perfection. Chaos, yes, but organized chaos. Behind the noise stood geometry. And behind that geometry, three architects, three RACHA. A few months later, with In Life, the group refined this process even further. The album consolidated elements that would now serve as their industrial foundation. Ultra-melodic choruses alternating with staccato verses, unexpected rhythmic shifts, layers of sound stacked like concrete blocks always on the brink of collapse. At the core of this thunderous construction lay precise structure, choreographed to perfection. Chaos, yes, but organized chaos. Behind the noise stood geometry, and behind that geometry, three architects, three RACHA. During this period, Bang Chan, Changbin, and Han officially took control. No longer hidden composers, they became the group's backbone. They wrote, they produced, they arranged. They laid the groundwork for every track and started receiving recognition for it. Stray Kids' image shifted from consumable idols to a self-produced powerhouse. This positioning was both sincere and strategic. Yes, they genuinely did everything themselves, but it was also useful to emphasize at every interview. Independence became a selling point. On the choreography side, dance RACHA Lee No, Hyunjin, Felix became visual stabilizers within this framework. Their performances grew iconic and viral. It was no longer just dance, but bodily architecture. Their movements didn't merely accompany the sound, they embodied it. The aesthetics of noise ran through their bodies, articulated by breaks, angles, tremors, Felix-anchored rhythm, Hyunjin sculpted emotion, Lee No articulated structures. Together, they constructed the visual facade of their sonic building. Meanwhile, vocal RACHA redefined itself. With Woojin gone, they had to rebuild balance. Seungmin stepped up. I. N asserted himself. Vocal lines became clearer, more prominent. It wasn't dominance, it was compensation, recentering. Where noise risked overwhelming, vocals restored relief. And this relief allowed Stray Kids to survive saturation. But the factory wasn't limited to music. It spanned their entire ecosystem, starting with content production. From 2020 to 2021, production became exponential. SKZ Talker, SKZ Player, SKZ Record, SKZ Going, V-Live streams, YouTube, TikTok, InStotch platform fed like an independent assembly line. Barely had a comeback ended before. Behind-the-scenes clips, bonuses, vlogs, or choreographic challenges surfaced. The group became its own media outlet. The agency no longer needed to craft narratives, they emerged directly from backstage. The fandom, in turn, followed in real time. Fans no longer consumed content, they integrated into the cycle, living at the group's relentless pace. And that pace was brutal. A global tour aborted by COVID, rescheduled, then detonated in 2021. Virtual concerts, online fan meetings, real-time adaptation to the health crisis without ever halting the machinery. SKZ became an anti-crisis enterprise, flexible, modular, unaffected by delays. Organizational agility became a strategic strength. As other groups slowed, SKZ accelerated, opening doors to dominance. This rise showed clearly in charts. Numbers climbed, streams exploded, fan cams went viral, the stay base grew international, funny compilations, TikTok edits, members get ready with me, videos became standalone formats. The group grew omnipresent, nearly risking overexposure. But for now, it worked. There was still momentum, adrenaline, and a shared ambition to build an empire. What's striking about this period is how Stray Kids transformed resilience into rhythm. There were no more pauses, no withdrawals. Each moment of inactivity became potential content. Each silence, a teaser. Each sign of exhaustion. Proof of dedication. They no longer just lived. They rotated, turbine-like, an engine never shutting off even when nearly drained. It was industrial age logic. In this age, everything became product. Fears, tears, doubts, high notes, falls, absences. Everything recycled, everything sold, everything archived. They didn't sell their souls, they serialized them. The Stray Kids sound became a brand, a promise, an aesthetic. A promise they faithfully fulfilled. There would be noise. Energy. Drops, shattering structure, saturated choruses. Above all, there would always be the feeling of too much, too loud, too fast, too intense. But that was the recipe. The specification, the power plant. Between 2020 and 2021, Stray Kids ceased being merely a group, becoming a system instead a replicable, expandable, optimizable model. Their strength lay in mastering chaos, encoding it, duplicating it, delivering it on demand. That's what a factory does, and Stray Kids had just opened theirs. There comes a point when a power plant evolves into an empire, when noise ceases to be a peculiarity and becomes a trademark. When anarchic experiments transform into globally marketable cultural products, ready for export and chart dominance. For Stray Kids, this transformation crystallized between 2022 and 2023, 2 years, where chaos turned into coherence, saturation into strategy, and each comeback became less an artistic event than a military operation. Welcome to the Imperial era where every note, every shot, every performance was calibrated not to charm, but to dominate. The shift began with Maniac, released in March 2022, a sonic slap. Not because it revolutionized their sound, in truth it repeated it, but because it institutionalized it. Mechanical noises, rhythmic breaks, unexpected vocal bridge sit was all there, but with a finish that was smoother, cleaner, more exportable. The video embraced a dystopian aesthetic. Cables, abandoned urban structures, vertigo-inducing perspectives. Every detail crafted to project in a major group, playing with their chains, twisting them into a playground. And it worked. Billboard, YouTube, TikTok, everything exploded. For the first time, Stray Kids wasn't addressing just the K-pop market, but the entire world. A few months later, Case 143 pushed the concept further. Its electronic, almost cartoon-like intro disoriented listeners, followed by an explosion. The song's structure shattered into sections, popping up unpredictably, intentionally chaotic, and disruptive. Yet it worked. Behind this chaos was craftsmanship, polished vocals, pristine mixing, meticulously detailed videos. Stray Kids no longer produced mere noise. They crafted aesthetic chaos, manufactured chaos, approved chaos. By now, their production was industrial. Comebacks followed each other relentlessly. Maxident arrived at the end of 2022, quickly succeeded by 5 Star in June 2023. Massive projects packed with original tracks, subunits, interludes, conceptual visuals. The sound remained loud, but became denser, richer. S-Class, the flagship single from Five Star, showcased everything the group mastered: lightning, fast rap, powerful vocals, electro-industrial beats, choruses shouted in unison, futuristic, CGI-heavy visuals. This was Stray Kids' formula at its peak, and the world listened. Billboard Hot 100, MTV Awards, American TV appearances. K-pop was no longer the context, it was the launch pad. If music became the tool of conquest, content was the cement of their empire. In 2022, 2023, Stray Kids didn't merely release songs, they offered a continuous experience. Albums were preceded by narrative teasers, stylized photo sets, videos blending thriller and comedy, making-of clips, preparation vlogs, behind-the-scenes footage, post-release live streams. Each comeback became a campaign, a narrative arc, a mini-universe. Fans followed closely. Stay were no longer an audience. They became gears, active segments of the production line. They documented, archived, virally spread, theorized, defended. Their role transcended mere support, turning them into propagation agents. When a Hyunjin fan cam surpassed 80 million views, it wasn't accidental, it was mechanical, strategic engagement. This strategy thrived on perpetual production. TikTok became a weapon. Felix dancing 3 seconds in a crop top? Instant million likes. Han dropping freestyle on an absurd beat? Instant challenge. Bang Chan talking 4 hours on V Live about obscure dramas? Instant analysis. Everything was content. Everything was exploited. It wasn't just a career, it was an algorithmic loop, a self-regulated ecosystem. And this system functioned like a corporation. Each member had a role, a persona, a target audience. Changbin, the king of speed, Han, the multi-talented artist, Seungmin, the soft sarcastic, In, the unpredictable maknae, Felix, the sweet spicy prince, Hyunjin, the enigmatic sensualist, Lino, the icy kitten, Bang Chan, the invincible leader. Roles, yes, but also commercial levers. At the apex stood Jip, capitalizing on every aspect of the brand. Merchandise, corporate collaborations, ad campaigns, photo books, mobile games, webtoons. Stray Kids became a franchise, a platform in industry within an industry. Within the label, they surpassed expectations, outselling senior groups, shattering pre-order records, filling stadiums in places nobody expected. They redefined K, pop's geography. Yet, amidst this imperial expansion, tension arose, a critical question emerged. What remained of the soul amidst such massive production? Because yes, everything was working. Numbers were up, records broken, performances praised. But criticism mounted simultaneously. The mainstream audience began citing redundancy, overproduction, auditory fatigue. The noisy sound wasn't innovative anymore. It was the norm, even caricatured. Some Korean analysts spoke of overdose. Others noted creative retreat. Among longtime stay, weariness set in. The machine kept running, but it began to creak. It still functioned, but it made noise, and that noise wasn't always intentional. Against this backdrop emerged songs like La 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 La, and notably Lose My Breath, feat. Charlie Puth, Attempts to Breathe, less saturated, more melodic, cleaner. As if the group sought to regain control, to prove it could still surprise, to show it wasn't trapped by formula. Yet the question lingered. Could the empire still innovate, or was it destined merely to optimize? An empire can become a trap, demanding perpetual top performance, relentless production despite fatigue. And Stray Kids, in 2023, gave everything perhaps too much. Signs appeared: tired faces, spontaneous breaks, Bang Chan's candid talks about pressure, fleeting absences, nothing official, yet everything visible. The factory kept turning. The empire expanded, but the spotlight began to burn. By 2022, 2023, Stray Kids ceased to be just a group. It became a force, an entity, a structure beyond its members. They dreamt it, built it, reaped its power. But with power came weight. Weight they'd have to bear or drop. The Stray Kids empire was solid, brilliant, effective. The question was no longer, will they succeed? It had become, how long can they last?
7 a.m. Sky still here, rain still due. The apocalypse didn't RSVP, but it left a voicemail. I spread butter like it's a coping mechanism. I count the birds, all three. One looks like he knows things. I'm too informed to be surprised, too tired to be outraged, too caffeinated to sleep, too awake to dream. I scroll past fires like they're memes. Gaza, forest, billionaires in space. I react with a toast emoji. I call that balance. This is my end of days routine. Filtered coffee, filtered news. The planet's burdened with bad Wi-Fi, and I'm just refilling my spoon. No breakdowns before breakfast, no hope without sarcasm. Apocalypse with a side of toast and emotional detachment for dessert. My therapist said I need grounding, so I touch grass. It's dead, my fault probably. I dreamt once that everything was fine. I woke up, my screen told me otherwise. Thanks, screen. I'm not numb, I'm just calibrated. I adjusted the volume on reality, and now it's background music to my mediocre lunch. This is my end of days routine. Hope postponed, truth delayed. Laugh tracks over chaos, guilt microwaved. No hero arc, no grand escape. Just me, a fork in yesterday's shame. Apocalypse with a side of toast, and still I stay.
Every machine, no matter how well oiled, eventually overheats. It's not a question of talent, strategy, or willpower. It's a law of physics. The harder you push, the higher the tension rises. And within Stray Kids' universe, that tension now tastes like saturation. From the outside, their empire still appears untouchable. Records shattered, sold-out international tours, flawless visuals, performances calibrated to the millisecond. But beneath the polished exterior, early warning signs accumulate. A question quietly surfaces among both fans and observers. Has the machine reached its limits? The first symptom is redundancy. Since 2022, their signature noisy sound has become more than just a trademark. It's their official DNA. But constantly recycling variations of the same concept has dulled the shock factor. Every comeback feels like deja vu same structure, same build-up, same anticipated sonic breaks. The most cynical critics have labeled Stray Kids the K-pop equivalent of a blockbuster franchise. Efficient, predictable, profitable. Even the most dedicated fans are beginning to express fatigue. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, they're all filled with breakdowns of the SKZ formula. Spoken intros, aggressive build-ups, choruses erupting into collective shouts, emotional bridges, vocoded outros. The issue isn't effectiveness, it's predictability. In this context, Lose My Breath, their May 2024 collaboration with Charlie Puth, was welcomed like fresh air. Less saturated, calmer, almost soft pop, the track differed sharply from their usual releases. Its video, intimate rather than futuristic, showcased clearer visuals. Faces, gazes, silences. It signaled a conscious attempt to slow down, to reclaim breathing room. It wasn't a sharp break from the Stray Kids universe, but it was a clear statement and attempt at reinvention, a test. Yet, beyond formal experimentation, emotional signals became apparent. In March, during a live stream, Bang Chan gravely apologized for comments about trainees made in a QA. It wasn't the first time he openly expressed exhaustion, doubt, mental burden. His role leader, producer, group frontman had never felt heavier. Countless lives revealed him exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, reassuring everyone while visibly carrying the weight of an entire world. Han, too, had multiple absences due to anxiety, confirmed by the agency. Hyunjin, often quieter, let slip glimpses of vulnerability previously unseen. Even Felix, ever bright, subtly acknowledged exhaustion from the relentless pace. That's the factory's dark side. It keeps running, even when bodies falter. Yet externally, demand grows relentlessly. World tours, fan meetings, YouTube videos, TikTok challenges, variety shows, photo shoots, studio recordings all back to back, no pause. The schedule is a steamroller. Here, the fandom, typically a driving force, starts mirroring criticism, stay openly requests. Let them breathe. Give them respite. The love remains steadfast, but now carries genuine concern fear of members collapsing, one by one, quietly backstage. Where the group might have slowed down, JIP opts for optimization. Branding is airtight. The RACHA units become marketing segments. Merchandise, posters, monetized identities. SKZ Player and SKZ Record maintain relentless release schedules. SKZ Flix adds a meta layer to the Empire scripted vlogs, and Fan Theater rolled into one. Fans oscillate between exhilaration and overwhelm. How can they keep up when every day brings multiple new releases? The overload hits producers and consumers alike. Meanwhile, external collaborations multiply. IN with Sam Kim, Songmin on OSTs, Han in external songwriting sessions. This hints at a quiet urge to emancipate artistically, proving members can exist beyond their noisy core. It's not divorce, it's distance, a loosening grip. Because even the brightest factory eventually crushes individuality. Then there's silence, the kind noticed after hearing too much noise. Moments where members stop posting. When updates slow, promotions thin out. Not from lack of things to say, but because nothing remains to produce. Excess has become a void. It's not hiatus, but it's a fracture, a crack in the system, an unnamed slowdown. The Empire still stands, but it wobbles. Musically, recent tracks indicate shifts. Megaverse experiments with progressive structures, less upfront, FNF. Despite its playful vibe, hints at expanding sonic palettes. The production team, led by 3 RACHA, seems to search for escape routes around the wall. But it's tricky. How do you reinvent the formula that took you to the summit without losing those who elevated you there? The core question lies not in figures, charts, or views, but intimacy. The look in members' eyes singing a chorus for the 100th time, breaths during live streams, the heaviness of comebacks leaving no room for doubt or imperfection. Do they still want it? Can they still sustain it? The Empire is impressive, solid, lucrative, but also demanding. Perhaps it's time to ask if it's still livable. 2025. Thus marks a turning point, a collective awakening. Stray Kids hasn't lost power, but has gained fragility, transparency. And paradoxically, this transparency deepens attachment. We don't love them less for their exhaustion. We love them more for their humanity. Noise isn't what impresses. No, it's the silence between beats, voice tremors, uncertain glances. Reinvention, if it comes, will emerge from this vulnerability, once hidden. Now their greatest strength. Stray Kids remains an empire, but now it's self-aware. And perhaps this awareness signals the start of a different story. Less noisy, more essential. There's something hypnotic about machines, their consistency, their efficiency, their infallible logic. Stray Kids have long embodied this fascination. A captivating machine fueled by urgency, controlled chaos, sweat, and raw genius. A mutant collective rewriting the traditional boy group rules by mixing creative independence, relentless presence, and explosive sonic identity. They never waited for doors to open, they smashed right through them, then built a cathedral of decibels on the ruins of doubt. But machines don't live, they function. The risk is that constant functioning might lead to forgetting themselves. Stray Kids have navigated every stage. Rebellious prototype, post-Woojin crisis management, wartime engine during the pandemic, algorithmic empire in the Billboard era. Yet this dazzling, inspiring, unique ascent leaves one question lingering. Not the typical one, not how far can they go, but rather, how long can they last? Because a group isn't merely a concept, it's bodies, sleepless nights, held breaths, relationships strained by commercial pressures, and those Stray Kids remain one of the tightest, most coherent groups of their generation. And though their artistic vision remains intact, tangible, admirable, the weight of their own system is starting to press down. Noise becomes structure. Structure becomes pressure. This isn't about sounding an alarm, it's about facing reality. Stray Kids stand at a crossroads today. They can continue doing what they do better than anyone else. Hitting hard, screaming perfectly, rallying an army of stay ready to follow them anywhere. But they could also, if they choose to fuse the machine, rewrite their story, risk slowness, accidents, the unexpected. Because perhaps the most subversive act now isn't making noise, it's stopping. Breathing. Creating for themselves rather than algorithms. Becoming, if only briefly, just boys making music without deadlines, targets, or promotional tunnels. That would be the true revolution. But whatever they decide, one thing is certain. They've marked their era. Stray Kids haven't merely existed in K-pop. They've disrupted it, saturated it, stretched it. And that noise, even if silenced someday, will echo for a long time. Speaking of noise, we're following it to the very end, because the next episode of RACHA Files, the final in this series, won't discuss subunits or sonic aesthetics anymore. It'll examine Stray Kids as an entity, a phenomenon, a system. A deep dive into their empire's overall architecture, the storytelling behind their success, and the contradictions defining them. The episode title, Stray Kids, the anomaly that became the norm. And believe me, it won't end on a gentle note. If this episode challenged you, give it space. Share it with someone who still thinks Stray Kids is just noise. Follow the podcast to catch the series' final installment. If you want to support this homemade project crafted by a single voice, a single pen, a single mic, you can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or join my world on Patreon. You'll also find my books, music, and other projects at capcroissantmedia.com.u. Been listening to Cappuccino and Croissant. We'll talk again soon. Until then, remember, sometimes the loudest noise is what we refuse to hear.
Cappuccino, white crop, mines, brewed hot, served raw. No sugar, no filter, sip and repeat, repeat, repeat.